Are officials lying about COVID-19 numbers? Today, we're going to hear it from their own words. Vidar returns. People would like to be able to trust their government. Many people trust their well-being and health to the government. There's the NHS, Medicare, Medicaid, and Veterans Care. We trust that when the government produces information or statistics, that it will be reliable information. Though time and time again, the government gives us reasons to doubt that trust. And as we shall see, this appears to be another instance of just that. What we're about to see is collected videos of government officials and doctors telling us directly that they are fudging the reporting of COVID-19 deaths. So let's get right into it and start here with the American diplomat, Dr. Deborah Birx.
I just want for Dr. Fauci or Dr. Birx, can you talk about your concerns about deaths being misreported by coronavirus because of either lack of testing or standards for how they're characterized?
So I think in this country, we've taken a very liberal approach to mortality. And I think the reporting here has been pretty straightforward over the last 5 to 6 weeks. Prior to that, when there wasn't testing in January and February, that's a very different situation and unknown. There are other countries that if you had a pre-existing condition, and let's say the virus caused you to go to the ICU and then have a heart or kidney problem, some countries are recording that as a heart issue or a kidney issue and not a COVID-19 death. Right now, we're still recording it, and the great thing about having forms that come in and a form that has the ability to mark it as COVID-19 infection, the intent is right now that if someone dies with COVID-19, we are counting that as a COVID-19 death.
Can you be sure? I mean, you hear from coroners that that's not necessarily the case.
If that seems reasonable to you, then let's ask a question. What if someone dies from a skydiving accident? Or what if someone dies from food poisoning or dies from being shot? Let's play the last part of that one more time.
Is right now that if someone dies with COVID-19, we are counting that as a COVID-19 death.
Now, could this be true? Perhaps we're misunderstanding or misinterpreting what Dr. Birx is saying. If someone dies from a clearly alternative cause, would they still be considered a COVID-19 death? Let's listen to another U.S. representative, Dr. Ezike, really spell it all the way out for us.
The death toll continues to climb. The Director of Public Health took time today to explain how the department rules someone an actual COVID death. It can be a little confusing. She says anyone who has COVID when they pass away will be included in that category. Dr. Ngozi Ezike explained this does not mean the virus caused that death, but if someone does test positive for COVID before dying, that is classified a coronavirus fatality.
You were in hospice and had already been given, a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, that would be counted as a COVID death. It means that even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death. So everyone who's listed as a COVID death doesn't mean that that was the cause of the death, but they had COVID at the time of death.
So here we see another confirmation that the COVID death numbers do not represent the number of people that died as a cause of COVID. This same fudging of numbers is not just happening in the USA, but is also happening in many other countries as well. Here is Matt Hancock from the UK.
Public health regarding deaths, which I think is incredibly important. Could I ask him, does he have any indications on how inaccurate that data may be? And if so, how that's likely impacting the planning for the future to deal with the COVID response?
Deputy Speaker, I don't have anything further to add yet. The problem was that anybody who had had COVID at any point and then subsequently died, whether or not from COVID, was being counted in this data, which right at the start of the crisis was a perfectly reasonable approach to take, but clearly needs to be reviewed. It does mean that it is likely that the number of deaths has been overestimated on this measure, and hence the urgent review, and I hope to have more information this week.
In this video, Hancock is urging the UK to maybe start counting COVID deaths more accurately, even though the data has already been tainted. And can we ask, just starting to count COVID deaths in this way was a, quote, perfectly reasonable approach according to what standard?
Start of the crisis was a perfectly reasonable approach to take.
In the beginning, middle, or end, why would it ever be a perfectly reasonable approach to overestimate the counted number of deaths? Thinking logically, what this overestimation of data means is that we can't tell how deadly coronavirus is. We can only tell how deadly it isn't. If the total COVID death count comes to 1% of all those who tested positive, then we can only say that the mortality rate is less than 1%. But how much less? The mortality rate could actually be 0.5%, or 0.1%, or 0.01%. There is no way to know for certain. And another question, if someone dies after having tested positive for both the flu and COVID at the same time, we should ask, what do they get marked as having died from? Now, if that weren't bad enough, we must also add in the cases of people being counted as COVID death who were never even tested. New York City has nearly 4,000 people who never tested positive to coronavirus death tolls. There is literally no telling how many other places this type of counting has occurred, and how many people have been declared COVID death without ever having been tested. How is this supposed to make us have confidence and trust in the reported numbers? Does Dr. Fauci have anything to say about these death numbers?
What do you say to those folks who are making the claim without really any evidence that these deaths are being padded, that the number of COVID-19 deaths are being padded?
You will always have conspiracy theories when you have very challenging public health crises. They are nothing but distractions.
After the doctors and politicians who make the rules have already admitted clearly that the death numbers are overestimated, then who do we believe? Dr. Fauci is calling other people conspiracy theorists without addressing the elephant in the room. To be clear here, we do accept that the virus is real and that it has taken people's lives, but we are exposing the deception. The deception is in the wording, quote, COVID deaths. It does not represent the number of people killed by COVID. At best, it represents the number of people who contracted COVID and then later died of any subsequent cause. Those individuals and media outlets that claim the death numbers are not inflated or not overestimated are in fact the ones pushing a deception of the highest order. When some news network says X number of people have died from coronavirus, then they are the ones promoting deception and lies to the public. We need to quickly give credit here to Anomaly. He's a video creator that helped bring a lot of this information to light. Anomaly's videos are often well documented with sources for all the information he presents. It's recommended to follow his content, and there's a link for him in the description. To conclude, what we must do is continue striving, as always, to be the best that we can be. Reject degenerate agendas of making society weaker, and we reject artificial immunities such as vaccinations. Seek excellence. Seek to be the superior being in harmony with nature. We seek to promote genetic fitness, natural strength, and natural immunity. Even with the overestimated numbers of, quote, COVID deaths, it has proven to be an extremely weak virus. If it infected every person on the entire earth, over 99% of humans would survive. Those of us that go against the global agenda and become infected should be praised. Those that become infected are doing their part to help make us all stronger. We should praise and thank them. Blessed are those that promote fitness of survival unto future generations. Like this video and follow now to stay updated with Vidar Returns content. We're on Steemit, Mastodon Gab, Minds and Library Networks, and live chat on the Matrix Network. Don't forget to share the video and spread the message. As always, go watch it if you haven't already, the previous video on Bill Gates, the face of evil. Links for everything in the description. I wish blessings to all my brothers and sisters. Vidar Returns.